So what I think the Great Resignation has done is it's given people permission to ask themselves, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? Do I actually want to sit in an office for 60 hours a week, and feel validated by the label on my business card with that corner office, driving a nice car, being on the hamster wheel constantly day in, day out, rinse and repeat. And then you get to 50 and you have the midlife crisis. It's like, what was all that about? What just happened for 50 years?
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live to die. Any day, my heart is pure, my soul is safe.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion with Dr. Mo Anderson, a podcast focused on lifestyle, self-care, personal empowerment, and positive relationships. I'm your host, Dr. Mo, best-selling author, award-winning podcast host, keynote speaker, and speaker coach. My goal for every episode is to entertain, educate, and elevate your mindset for the important work of continuous personal improvement. If you're new to the show or a returning visitor, come on, let's make this official. Hit that subscribe button. My guest for this episode is Mary Henderson. She's an internationally recognized personal branding and online business specialist. Mary knows how to commercialize a personal brand into a monetizable online and offline business. She's a speaker, author, and the founder of Lights, Camera, Action, an end-to-end online coaching program exclusively designed for consultants, startups, and business owners. We have bills. We need to get paid. We want to share and pass it forward, but we've got to learn how to monetize that knowledge and wisdom. So Mary trains service-driven experts to systemize, digitalize, and commercialize their knowledge and their skills into a digital coaching consulting business while increasing their authority in the industry. Hey, if you want to get started on authentic personal brand creation, keep listening. Mary, welcome to Perpetual Motion.
Hi, Dr. Mo. It's great to be here all the way from Australia. I'm really excited.
All the way from down under. I love it when I have international guests. You just bring that extra energy.
Well, I'm going to try my hardest, put it that way. Hopefully I won't disappoint.
I can't imagine that you will. Let's start with something everyone is really familiar with. When I introduced you, I talked about you train people to commercialize their personal brand and into a monetizable online and offline business. And so many people now, entrepreneurs, small business people, are trying to start and scale up, and people with larger businesses. So this is such an important topic. Yep. Let's start with the Great Resignation. In 2021, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 47 million Americans voluntarily quit their jobs, an unprecedented exit from the workforce spurred by the virus. And it's now being called by everyone the Great Resignation, the quitting, cold quitting, soft quitting, quiet quitting. People are even there and they've resigned, even though their bodies are physically present. How is this phenomenon being witnessed and experienced by so many people, opening up people's mind to entrepreneurship and self-employment?
That's a great question. I'm so glad we've started there. You know, the Great Resignation, I think, Dr. Mo, it's a long time coming, okay? And what COVID did, it gave people permission to look inside themselves. And, you know, I know even with my own journey, when I transitioned from an employee to an entrepreneur, you know, the time that you need to self-actualize your potential requires a silence, it requires contemplation, it requires thinking time, it requires the ability to listen to your inner self, not the outside noises. This is to the inner. So what I think the Great Resignation has done is it's given people permission to ask themselves, is this what I want to do for for the rest of my life? Do I actually want to sit in an office for 60 hours a week, and feel validated by the label on my business card with that corner office, driving a nice car, being on the hamster wheel constantly day in, day out, rinse and repeat. And then you get to 50 and you have the midlife crisis. It's like, what was all that about? What just happened? Right? I'm still unhappy. I'm still unfulfilled. I'm still in debt. I still haven't met the love of my life. I'm still not a multimillionaire. Hang on a minute. I was told that was, So what's happened is I think that people are starting to self-actualize their potential. It's like, you know what, maybe, just maybe, I could start that consulting business or that coaching business that I've always wanted to do.
Right.
Because I think human beings genuinely, for most part, care about service. Honestly, I really, really believe that. The people that I get to work with, it's all the same right across the board. It's like they say, there's something deep inside of me that I'm yearning. I just can't put language around it. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm destined for something bigger. That's what the Great Resignation is to me.
You know what? That was a fantastic answer. You encapsulated everything I feel about it, everything that I've read. I'm an intellectual tourist, and I know that statistic was from the U.S., but I know it is not confined to the U.S., that it is a global phenomenon. And you alluded to, I know a little bit about your journey and how you started with your current mission. And I want to circle back to that when you resigned and from your own business and decided to look at life differently. Let's talk about what your feelings were at that time, because that was before the Great Resignation.
Oh, yes, way before the Great Resignation. Here's the thing, I had a software company for 7 years and it was very successful, 7 figures, outside in. People would be like, oh my God, she's so successful. I want what she's got, blah, blah, blah. But inside of myself, only I knew the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And so my realization was just that slither, that nanosecond in time where you catch a glimpse of the truth and you can't walk away from it because it's so powerful and it completely overwhelms you. And that happened for me when my second son was born, literally 3 hours after he was born. That was the moment that epiphany took place. I reached out to get the lip balm to put place on my lips. My business card falls out and there it was, smack bang. I realized, oh my God, my whole life has been a series of labels. Like quite literally, this business card is defining my life. And I knew, Dr. Mo, 3 hours after my son was born that I would resign from my company. There was no turning back because I didn't create a company that I was absolutely passionate about. There are aspects about software development that I'm really good at and I love, but that was not my purpose. God didn't put me on this earth for that. But in saying that, it was divinely orchestrated for me to actually have that because I needed that to do what I'm doing now. It's amazing how God works. And so
yes, it is.
It's amazing. And so I resigned from my own company. I merged with another design agency. Thank you very much, God, for allowing me to do that, which then I took a 12-month sabbatical in 2012. And fortunately, I had the most incredible mentors to hold a space for me and to allow me to self-actualize. And so I was fortunate enough to have mentors in that 12-month sabbatical, one of which was a philosopher, a professor in philosophy at Oxford University with 30 years experience. And the thing is, Dr. Mo, I needed an academic. I didn't want self-help. I needed more. And because I was searching for something, I didn't know what I was searching for. I'll tell you, I was searching to change my life though, because I was yearning for happiness. I was yearning for feeling whole. I was yearning to truly, truly understand, why am I here? What is the meaning of life? What is my purpose? Because it can't be this. This is not enough for me. And that opened me up. That literally opened me up. And it opened me up to a point where I realized that my genius zone, made up of knowledge, wisdom, skills, gifts, and talents, is unique to my DNA. It's my soul code.
Absolutely.
Right. So what am I going to do with all of that internal inventory? Is it going to just be a sheer memory where I can say when I'm 90, oh, wasn't that lovely that I had such an amazing life? Or do I take that inventory and ask myself, what is my purpose based on all of this inventory? Because that's what I realized. My purpose is in there, not out there. So there's a reason why all the greatest philosophers and, all the wise teachers of our past always say everything you need is already inside of you. It is absolutely accurate. And so that was the journey. That was the beginning of what I would call, the life of Mary Henderson. And all of us have access to this.
You were ahead of your time. I had a similar experience in my early 40s, and everyone thought I was, crazy. And I'm going to say I really am excited for Gen Z and younger generations that they are able to do this without the judgment that you probably had to face and I had to face, because there was so much what if, and you can't do that. But when you have that yearning, something within me was like, yes, I can. I need, just a little bit of support. I need a mentor. And yes, I can. And for someone who's listening to this, if you're feeling that yearning, feeling that drive, and you might not be able to do like Mary and I and just flip immediately, but, part-time, little by little, move yourself in the direction of your passion and your purpose. And the personal inventory, I haven't heard that term before, but I like that, the way you described. I'm so used to hearing cliches and the little trendy word of the moment, but personal inventory is so apropos. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the thing is that I use language that, this is a really awesome question, because this is, especially in the line of work that I do, we even all have our own coded language, so there are words that I will use that make sense to Mary. There are words that you use that make sense to Dr. Mo. So I refer to our internal inventory as our currency. See the language around this, but it makes sense. Think about it. The one thing that never depreciates, that no one can ever take away from you, is what? Your knowledge, your wisdom, your skills, your passions, your life experience, your gifts, your talents. No one can take that away from me. You can try as hard as you like. You can't, even if I was dead, you still can't take them away from me. And it doesn't depreciate, okay? Exactly. So therefore, we are all sitting on our own individual gold mines. And I can even prove this. Because I say to the people that I work with, okay, let me prove to you what your value is. And you probably have never seen it like this. But let's look at it. Let's just say you have 20,000 hours experience in one specialization. Let's call it finance, okay? All different aspects of finance, but you've been in the finance space for 20 years and you know pretty much all angles, all the tricks, the tips, da-da-da. If I was to ask you to multiply a 40-hour week, okay, multiplied by 4 weeks in a month, that's 160 hours a month, times 12, it gives us a value of, I think it's 1,920 hours. Multiply that by 20 years, that gives you an hourly, like an accumulation of hours. Now, let's be conservative and let's say 20,000 hours multiplied by $100 per hour. You're sitting on a multi-million-dollar gold mine. You see what I'm saying? That's being conservative. So why are we not seeing ourselves as literal geniuses? Because that's what we are. And so this is why I'm so passionate about that language, because when I use that language, I can get my message across in exactly the way I just described it.
And you do that also very well. I love that. And I love your analogies. Particularly, I think they're very, very relatable, and you're spurring me to action even as I listen. So let's start with this journey. I mean, you're thinking about it, you're realizing I have all this experience, this wisdom, this emotional intelligence, this my own DNA that I can use to help others. Let's start with the personal brand. What is a personal brand?
Well, it's you, the business. Quite put simply, I'm not going to elaborate and make up words. It's you, the business. You, the human, is the business. That's it.
And I love that. And I ask that because so many people just throw that word around casually without, I think, either they don't really realize what it means or they take it for granted that
Yes.
the value that they bring. And I love technology that I can sit here from my home and talk to you in Australia, and I can reach people all over the world, because that makes it such a better time to launch your own business and to become an entrepreneur, because you don't have the gatekeepers anymore. You got to hustle, but there's opportunity. Doors are more easily open. So you are the business, the personal brand. How do you commercialize that? What are some tips? I don't expect you to give it all away, but a starting point.
Well, I love that question, because it allows me to also articulate the importance of understanding that if you cannot commercialize your personal brand, what is it? Like, let's think about this pragmatically. What is it if you can't commercialize it? Is it just colors and fonts and pretending to be famous when you're not famous? Like, honestly, what is it? So that's not the version that I'm talking about. What I believe with passion is that if you haven't accumulated that internal inventory from the standpoint of having the capability of solving one complex problem based on your specialization, it's very difficult to define your brand, what it is that you stand for and what you want to be known for. Okay, so let me just make sure that everyone understands that. Let's make the assumption that the people that are listening are thinking, oh gosh, I have got 20,000 hours of experience or 10,000 or whatever, and I can solve a complex problem. Okay, the journey looks like this. You ask yourself, what does all of that inventory look like when I unpack it? My gifts, my talents, my value system, what's my story? What is my persona? What do I stand for? What are my drivers? All of these elements have to be unpacked because they're attributes of a brand. Now, here's something very interesting. A personal brand and a corporate brand have exactly the same attributes. The difference is the drivers. A corporate brand is driven by their story. If there's no story, there's no corporate brand. There's no Apple, there's no Microsoft. It all starts from a story. A personal brand is driven by legacy. What do I want to leave behind? What do I want to be known for? And that's the driver for a brand, so personal brand. Once all of those attributes are unpacked, now we start to build the foundation. Now I know for sure what I stand for, what my persona's like, what my language looks like, what my story looks like, and most importantly, the problem I can solve. Then I move down to systemization. Now I ask myself, how do I actually create a solution from start to promise that can solve a problem for sure? So if I'm going to work with somebody and take them on a journey, how do I get them from idea to the outcome in the shortest time possible, or whatever time is required to get them to the outcome? So there has to be a definitive promise. It can't be a deliverable. Deliverables are not promises. They're just things you give to people to support what you're doing. Okay, they're tools. Okay, we're talking about outcomes, tangible outcomes. If you work with me, this is what's going to happen at the end of the journey. Okay, what does the transformation look like, and what is the outcome of the result? The third part, and very important, and this is where most people leave it, they don't even understand this concept. For me, a personal brand must provide an ecstatic brand experience. Every person that touches my brand, I must give them an experience. Even you and I having this conversation, I want your listeners to get so much value out of this conversation that if they go and listen to another podcast, I'm consistent. That's Mary. She was talking about that with Dr. Mo. I love her language. You see what I'm saying? So the consistency. But if you go to my website and you go and check out my masterclasses, there's so much packed value in those masterclasses. I want my prospects to leave the experience they have with me, and I want them to be wowed. I want people to say, I would have paid for that. right? So the digital experience has to be ecstatic across all communication touch points. And finally, we get to the final part, which is the commercialization. How do I get in front of my audience, my target audience, and how do I make them see me as omnipresent? Not me being omnipresent. How do they see me as omnipresent? So now I need to understand where I need to be seen and heard based on where my target audience hang out, right? That's the process of commercializing your personal brand. Then there's one step after that. And this is the most important, because now I've just spoken about the implementation moving parts of a personal brand, which is the business. The final part is the embodiment of that version of you. And this is what most people leave out. It's like, okay, I've got all the moving parts in place, but now you have to become that. Now you've got to become that. Ooh. Now you have to self-actualize all of your potential and be present across all platforms, so you are actually living, breathing, sleeping, eating that version of you. See all of the moving parts. It's not just about, hey, I've got my font and my colors. This is a serious business.
Very much so. Very much so. Wow, that was a masterclass right there. Thank you. Thank you. And I do believe in giving value as well, which we talked about even in the pre-call, and you are bringing it. Thank you so much. Just the systems and knowing who you are and the value that you bring, and then the omnipresence. Let's revisit with that a little bit, because I'm on a lot of platforms, you're on a lot of platforms, doing a lot of different things, but I think a lot of people are just kind of running themselves ragged, trying to be everywhere and be everything and engage with everybody. I understand that you need to be omnipresent and you need to be aware. Now TikTok is taking off. I can talk about my books on TikTok. Before, that idea was ludicrous. Instagram, Twitter, does it depend on what you're doing? Because what you just said about being omnipresent and being on all the different social media channels, was important, but you also said where your audience is. So I want to make sure we clarify that a little bit, because some people are overdoing it. And it's not necessarily where their people are.
We have to think with a completely different mindset. Most people are reacting, not responding. They're two different ways of approaching social media and also being omnipresent. Here's the thing, Dr. Mo. I don't need to be in front of 7.5 billion people. I don't need 7.5 billion people, okay? I just need to understand, who is it that I can serve for sure? That's it. That's the question. Who is it that I can serve for sure? So my target audience are industry experts. They're typically PhDs, academics, established businesses, authors, consultants, coaches. Okay, that's pretty much my little box. Okay. Now I need to figure out, where are these people? I just want to get in front of them. That's all I'm interested in. I don't need to be on TikTok, because they're most likely not on TikTok. So that's out. Right. Although TikTok is great for, picking up the breadcrumbs and, hopefully you might get some people listening to, but I know my audience so intimately that they're not on there. I know exactly where they are. They're on podcasts, they're on LinkedIn, and they're on Facebook and Instagram as well, but more Facebook. But even Facebook has to be even strategic. So that's it. So now I figured that out. Now I need to create content that starts a dialogue with them, because once I create a content strategy and I know where they hang out, now it's up to me to start pulling them into my ecosystem and starting a conversation from a like-minded zone. Okay, it's not about me pushing my products or services or how good I am. In fact, that's repulsive. What I'm looking for is, I want to start a dialogue. I want to challenge paradigms. I want people to understand what I stand for. It's like you're building a movement, and that movement is followed by people who share the same sentiment, who really believe in what you stand for as well. And then you start to create this little ecosystem, and that ecosystem could be 1,000 people, 100 people, or 100,000 people, or 1 million. It doesn't matter how big it is. It's irrelevant, completely irrelevant. All we need to figure out is, who are they, and speak the truth authentically, be unapologetically yourself. And that's
Absolutely.
what people will be drawn to.
Absolutely. And those numbers don't matter, as you said. I'm so glad you said that. When you are in the right place and doing the right thing, you're not as concerned about, you're not trying to be an influencer in the sense of being popular. You're trying to be an influencer in the sense of changing people's lives. And so
Yes.
you don't have to have 1 million people. If you do, that's great, but that's not going to change that you're consistent as you are in giving your information and serving and coaching and training, because
Yes.
you have a clear purpose.
Yes,
And
correct.
Wayne, if you're doing it because you love it, you know.
And I think you also mentioned a very important word there. That's called consistency.
Yes.
If you're not consistent, don't complain. It's as simple as that. Because we're in the social media space, that the key to success is consistency.
That it is absolutely, and quality.
Correct. You got it.
Let's talk about then, you talked a bit about lead generation. Let's talk about some organic. Well, first, let's define that. I don't want to assume everyone knows what that means, even though it's a somewhat common term. It's not used by everyone. And then some organic lead generation strategies.
So lead generation is essentially acquiring, a potential client or a potential customer that could potentially work with you at some point in time. And what we need to do is we need to create environments to start that conversation, whether it be on social media through your content, whether it be creating masterclasses that people can get a taste of you, whether you're creating live webinars, whether you're creating your Facebook group, or whether you're just on LinkedIn every day. We have to define that strategy, because they're what I would call layers, right? So once we've established those layers, then the next thing is, and the best way to acquire organic leads, from my experience, is through creating ecstatic content, like really understanding how to write content in the form of storytelling, in the form of sharing your expertise, in the form of not being afraid of giving. This is very important. If we're afraid of giving, then it stops the whole flow. People can feel it. So my attitude's a little bit different. I'm all about giving. Here, take it, because you have to do it. You're the one that's going to have to do it. So I'll give you everything I've got, but you still have to learn how to do it. I'm not giving you the how. I'm just telling you what you need.
Yes.
So you shouldn't be afraid to give away. And going back to that point that I said before, if you can't provide ecstatic brand experiences, guess what? You're blending in with everybody else.
Indeed you are. Indeed you are. Wow. You are you are so on point, and saying things in a way that somebody out there is really, really getting energized and understanding. And you guys, Mary does this for a living. She is, you can just hear, you can hear what she's giving you, the value she's giving you without, for free on this free podcast. So just imagine, and that's the thing, when you're good, Mary, you made me think about, I don't know if you know Bishop T.D. Jakes. He's an evangelist. He's world renowned. He is phenomenal. He's right here near me in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I know he puts every single one of his sermons online because I watch him all the time. But I know people who won't do that because they're like, people will steal my stuff. I can't put all my stuff out there. They won't come to the church. Here's a perfect example. First of all, you've got to know that you're good enough that even with what I'm giving you for free, and this is back to us as individuals, I can take it to the next level because you're going to have unique challenges that I'm going to help you solve. But also, when you're creative and you're really good, you're just not worried about it because you got something else. If you copy that, I got something else for you.
Well, Dr. Mo, can I just also add something to that? And this is actually critical. A lot of people are so afraid of people taking their IP away.
Yes.
I'm sorry to break it to everybody. You don't own your IP. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because somebody just needs to take my IP and change only 30% of it and call it their own. So let's just move on from that. Let me tell you what you can protect. And this is the best way to think about this. the reason why I'm so passionate about unpacking all of those attributes and then turning it into a solution is because I'm actually creating systems. Now, let's think of a systems approach here. When you create systems, we must allow for input, output, and the feedback loop. The feedback loop is where the gold mine is. When I get feedback, it allows me to version what I've already got to the next stage. So you go and steal my IP and knock yourself out because I'm already on version 5.0. So what you have is old.
Yes.
So it ain't going to work. You see what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
It doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. I've already moved on and moved the needle. I'm already 10 years ahead. So don't be afraid to give. Your job is to version. Your job is to take the feedback loop and do something with that data. This is why AI is so powerful, because that's how it works. It's a system. Input, output, feedback. Input, output, feedback. We have to think the same in our businesses.
Yes, and AI, artificial intelligence. If you miss that, AI, artificial intelligence, it's so, so good. And just to make it real basic, if you're not open to feedback, whether it's constructive or not so constructive, there's not going to be an opportunity for growth there. It's not fun, but none of us know everything. None of us do. And you've got to be open to the possibility that there's another way to look at things, or you're wrong, or you need to change your position. And if you're moving on to 5.0, 6.0, 7.0, you're excited about that. You got to get excited about change. Only dead things don't change.
Absolutely. No change, no growth. It's as simple as that. So, and it's the same with, when you're defining yourself as a brand, it's the same thing. The most important aspect of our businesses is the growth and the knowledge. That's the key.
That's the key. And for my last question, before we talk about your specific business, which I do want to get into that, let's talk a bit about mentors and why they are critical to success.
For me, I don't think that I would be where I am today had I not had all the mentors that I've engaged till this day. Okay, so I've always got mentors and coaches around me. The investment in my personal development is priority over everything. Everything is on hold, but my personal development is priority. My philosophy is this. If I can get a mentor that has 20, 30 years experience in the problem that I'm trying to solve, I'm going to save myself a lot of time and get to my destination in the shortest time possible. And people are so afraid to invest in themselves because everything else takes precedent. My kids, my school fees, it's just everything else is number one except me. But you see, I call this self-care. This is divine selfishness. We have to actually see it like this. If I can be selfish from the standpoint of feeding my inner self first with growth and wisdom and knowledge and goodness, do you think that my children and my ecosystem, my extended family, my clients are not going to benefit from that? Like, seriously.
Right.
So everyone benefits from that. So it's a flow-on effect. It really is. So mentoring is not a nice to have. It's actually a must-have. It's like people come to me, prospects, and we have this conversation. They're like, yeah, I've done that. I've done it. Yeah, I can do that. And I'm like, if you've done all of this, you actually should be turning over at least $250,000. Let me show you. I can prove that to you. And I do. And they're like, oh my God, you're right. Well, maybe I'm not doing that. Yes, correct. You're not doing that. But let me just remind people, what I do is 40,000 hours of my accumulated knowledge, wisdom, and skills. And not 4,000, not 4 textbooks, 40,000 hours. So I've mastered every step of the way, like literally mastered. I know it at the back of my hand. That's what we're talking about here. If you're going to go with a mentor, even a pastor, just to be able to get that mentorship, the wisdom. That's what we're paying for. The wisdom is what we're paying for. We're not paying for the workbooks. We're not paying for the online program. If that's a given, who cares about that? It's the wisdom. It's the time I want to spend with this person.
That one-on-one time.
Absolutely.
Or that small group time. It is
Got it.
so important for the connectedness and for the growth. And that's why earlier you alluded to, needing to invest in yourself with actual individuals, because so many people are trying to do it now with YouTube University and with listening to various programs, which is good, but you don't get the feedback. And that leads to more growth, that leads to challenges and accountability. And so one more question about mentors. I said that was the last one, but that's okay. I reserve the right to ask another question. Do you, well, I won't say what I think, but do you think that having a diversity of mentors is
100%? Absolutely. Because you just get a collective perspective through different lenses. And I think that's very important. I don't want a cookie cutter, perspective. I want lots of different views from lots of different backgrounds. My mentors are all over the world. They have all different ideas, even about spirituality, things of that nature.
Yes.
I'm interested in lots of perspectives, and then I'll arrive at my own conclusion. So I think diversity is very, very powerful.
I agree with you. I think it's very important, whether it's gender, age, ethnicity, just the way that they can help you inform your perspective and your thoughts and come to better decisions is remarkable. And I have to admit, when I was younger, I tended to shy away from people if they were a different, ethnicity or religion in particular. I won't even say ethnicity, but if they were a different religion, having grown up Baptist, I gotten kind of insular about that, or if they had just had a different type of experience in life. And I'm grateful that I got to the point that I realized that's actually a good thing, not to have a bunch of yes people or homogeneous mini me's around me. And I'm a better person for it, even when they drive me crazy. When I get that quiet time and think about what they said, I'm like, you know what?
True.
There's
I agree.
truth to that. So before we go, tell us about Lights, Camera, Action, your end-to-end online coaching program, and whatever services or books or resources you offer.
Absolutely. So anyone that wants any of my free resources, they're all available on my website, maryhendersoncoaching.com. So feel free to just get access to anything you like. And also I have a Facebook group for industry experts, which is facebook.com/industry experts. You can join that for free as well. I give a lot of free information and workbooks exclusively in that group as well. My coaching program is now, as of 1st of September, will be a 12-month mastermind. This is the group coaching, and it's extraordinary. There's lots of magic that happens there. It is an end-to-end solution. Come in with an idea, and you actually leave with a full business wrapped around fully defining your brand, fully systemizing your genius into an actual premium offer and a solution, digitizing all of your assets, websites, building the learning management system into your online program, creating all of the ecstatic experiences on the public facing, and most importantly, creating all the layered lead generation strategies. All of that is provided in my program. It's 100% supported with all the frameworks that took me 3 years to design. So it's all tried and tested. And I think the special thing about my program, Dr. Mo, is that we have 2 live coaching calls a week. And on the Tuesday calls, it is all about the embodiment of becoming who you are. And the strategies I teach are not self-help. They're based on many, many years of my being mentored by the best of the best. And as my mentor said to me only 6 months ago, at some point, Mary, you're going to have to make a decision to give all of this knowledge that you hold away to your clients. And I said, you're absolutely right. So it's just been so amazing to see these people transform into beacons of lights. I cannot tell you. I really feel like I'm doing God's work because I've got all these beautiful souls out in the world, serving the world. It's just gorgeous. And so that's my program. And I also offer that one-on-one as well, which is a complete done for you. Typically business owners will take that offer, but that's me. I feel that I'm here to serve and turn genius into gold. That's the only way I can describe my work.
Wow, what a tagline. Here to serve and turn genius into gold. And I would agree. And I encourage everyone to visit your website, look into your Facebook group, take advantage of these opportunities and the wealth of knowledge and experience that you bring. Mary Henderson, this has been a treat. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Mo. Thank you so much.
And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and renew. Thank you.